Well, hey everybody, it's right before Christmas, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sneak in one more action camera review for 2017, the SooCoo Pro, coming right up. All right, let's take a look at the latest offering from SooCoo, the S100 Pro 4K action camera using Novatech 96660 and a Sony sensor. Now you know that it's going to be interpolated on the 4K since it's using Novatech. And let's take a look inside the box. A very nice, sturdy carrying case that it came with. And I went ahead and sped up this portion so you can get an idea of all the plethora of items that came inside the case. And if you look inside the case itself, everything is got a little cutout for all of your additional pieces to be put in. And it also comes with a remote control, which was a very nice added item. Now we'll take a look at the camera itself, get it out of its waterproof case. It's supposed to be waterproof for 30 meters. I did not test it because it is winter in Texas. And I will tell you that when you look at the camera, it is very rugged feeling. It feels like a substantial piece of equipment because the outside is not rubber, but it's that rubberized plastic. Once you turn on the front button, it turns on off the camera. It comes with two batteries, one in the camera and one inside the carrying case. And touchscreen on the back, so all the menu navigation will be done through the back. Battery on the bottom, as usual with a lot of these action cameras. One thing I wish that it had was a little hinge for the battery drawer instead of just the slide out, but you know, that's just a personal thing of mine. But the most important part, let's take a look at video quality. So shooting 1080p 60 frames a second. And if you touch the back screen, it'll show a little arrow, and I assume that that's where it's going to do its metering on the area of the screen that you touch. So I just touched the center, got a little bit darker. Now I'm touching where the house is. Now I'm touching where the grass is. So you can see it is, you can see if I can get to a bright area, like right there. And then tap the screen. I'll tap where the bright sky was and it just darkened up. With the gyro off and also the metering, spot metering function turned off. Just letting the camera do this automatically. Hi there, Blackie. How you doing, boy? At 1080p, now the gyro on, spot metering still off. From what I see in the back of the screen, the gyro seems to work pretty good on this camera. Hey, Blackie. Hey, boy. How you doing, boy? Now 2K at 30 frames per second. "4K, 24 frames per second. And the gyro is on. All right, so now we've got the SooCoo Pro. Now let's see how the voice command works. So I was very surprised that the Novatech 96660 actually supports that. So let you look at the back of the screen that it's on. So let's try photograph. Let's go to the next thing, which is going to be video start. I don't know if you heard that or not, but it said video start. Stop video. shut down. So the voice command does work on the camera, although as you heard, you've got to be very loud, because if you try to speak in a normal tone of voice, or normal, I guess a normal tone of voice, it's not going to hear you, so you have to speak very, very loud. So what do I think? My final thoughts on the SooCoo Pro action camera. Well, let's talk about some of the pros first, okay? So it is very ruggedly built. I mean, it's not rubber, but it's like a rubberized plastic. But it feels like you could drop it and that it may actually survive. Now, did I try that? No, I did not. But it feels like that it would possibly survive. It feels very rugged. I like the fact that it's got a 2-inch touch screen on the back, which is very nice. And it has Gorilla Glass, because we all know Gorilla Glass is very, very impervious to scratches and cracking. It's not indestructible, but it does help. Another pro that I like is the case that it came with and all the accessories. Ton of accessories that came along with this little camera, and I think that that's also a pro. One of the other pros is it came with 2 batteries, those 10,050 milliamp hour batteries, and I think having extra batteries when you're doing action camera shots is always a necessity and comes in handy, so thumbs up for that. The touchscreen I was very surprised with, because it is extremely responsive. I mean, just barely touching it, you could slide through the menus, you could turn the voice activation on and off. The spot metering was very easy to manage, although I didn't like the spot metering at all, because I think with that function turned off, the images were a little bit better. And surprisingly, another pro was that it's got voice control, which I didn't know that the Novatech 96660 actually had the capability of voice control. So that was another neat little feature. It's kind of GoPro-ish with the voice control, because GoPro with the GoPro Hero 5 being voice controlled, they were the first ones to come out with it. Then the Yi 4K Plus is voice controlled. Now this is voice control. Pretty cool. Now we have to talk about the cons of this little camera. And the first one is going to be the low bit rate, in my opinion. I mean, it hovered around 19 to 20 megabits per second, and that was it. That was whether you're recording 1080p at 60, 2K, or even 4K that's interpolated. But the Novatech chip is capable of a higher bit rate. They can go up to 30, I think 30 was the max that another company has gotten out of that chipset. So the bit rate was a con for me. The audio, so-so audio on this camera. The weird thing about the audio was that if you were at 1080p, the audio volume level was at one level. If you went to 2K, it got a little bit louder and clearer. And then when you went to 4K, it got even a little bit louder and more clearer. So with the higher resolutions, the audio actually improved, which is kind of weird to me. The 4K 24 frames a second being interpolated like it is, to me it was a little bit on the jumpy side, a little stuttery. That's another one of the cons that I have with this camera. Another con is this little battery slide out drawer. Now keep in mind, it's not the little thumb clip that you've got to do on some of the other action cameras, but they could have put a hinge on it, in my opinion. Now this is a small little pet peeve, but I think they could have put a hinge on it so that it would allow you to take the battery in and out as opposed to this sliding this, because I think it's going to be very easy just to drop that, step on it, break it, or even lose it. Voice control. Now, I said it as a pro, but I'm also going to say it as a con, because the voice control, it is a bit finicky. And what I mean by that is you've got to really project your voice. You've got to talk loud in order for it to hear you and do the voice command of whether it's shooting a photo or doing video or turning off. You have to really talk loudly. And if you're doing a vlog style situation, if you've got to talk at one tone while you're shooting your video, and then you've got to yell at the camera for it to do a voice command, it draws a little bit of attention. I'm the type of person that I don't care if somebody stares at me and makes fun of me, because, I'm okay with that. And I guess the last con that I have about this camera is that I know personally, because I've got other action cameras that use the Novatech 96660 chipset in it, that the Novatech chip is capable of some very great footage. So it's not so much of a bash against, or it's not so much of a pro against SooCoo or SooCoo. I think that if they spend a little bit more time with the firmware and tweak the firmware to get all of the capability out of this camera, that it can improve the image quality. Because the image quality to me was a little bit, you know, another one of the cons was the blue. Now everybody knows that the Novatech chip favors blue. It does on all the other action cameras that use that Novatech chip. But with this one especially, in that one scene that I showed you, it's a little bit problematic for me, where that little bluish haze, it almost looks like blue snow on top of the trees, and then it corrects itself. And then that little color gradient in the sky where you'll see it band from blue to light purple. And you know, that's another thing that's common with Novatech chips, because you know, you can only squeeze so and so much out of a Novatech chip. And you know, there's another company that's done a great job with squeezing out as much as possible. But we are talking about the SooCoo Pro. Bottom line, what do I think about this camera? Is it worth it or is it not? I think that if they develop the firmware, pay attention to the firmware, and get it to where they can get the best image possible. Because the voice control, that's a cool feature. Touchscreen, that's a cool feature. Voice control, cool feature. Gorilla Glass, another cool feature. But you know what? It all comes down to image quality. I would rather give up voice control, Gorilla Glass, touchscreen for a camera that gave me beautiful footage. At the end of the day, would I recommend this camera for $118 at the position that it's at right now with this firmware? I think that there are better options out there that the firmware has been tweaked. But the caveat is, if SooCoo goes and they work on the firmware and update the firmware, because I do have the latest update on this, but if they update the firmware even again, I think that they'll be able to justify that price point, because you know, it does have a lot of features and it is a rugged feeling camera. You know, the video quality I think was so-so. So, you know, that's my two thoughts. I mean, would I recommend this camera to you if you're just now getting into the action camera market? Probably not yet. Not yet. I would not give this my recommendation yet. But I think that a lot of the problems with this camera can be corrected with a firmware update. Anyway, 2017 is about to finish out. I hope you guys have a great Christmas. Be happy, be healthy. Tell the ones that you love them, because you never know. And I will see you guys next year. Bye-bye.
And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and be sure to share it. And also, if you have a question, comment below, because I respond to all comments. And if you're not a subscriber, be sure to subscribe today and click on the bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a video.